Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Tuesday, April the 22nd. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and Matt Robinson with us, ready to break down the Tuesday NHL card. We got another 4 games on tap. Beware of this schedule. It's a kooky schedule we got, but we got a 6 p.m. Eastern start time to get the night underway with New Jersey, Carolina, Game 2. It'll be 7:30 p.m. Eastern for the Battle of Ontario, Senators, Leafs, Game 2. 8:30 p.m. Eastern time for... They're finally going to get this series going. I forgot that this was even a first-round series. But yes, the Battle of Florida. It will begin tonight. Finally, Florida and Tampa Bay, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And then we wrap up the night with, I'm sure it's not going to make the Minnesota fans happy that they got a 10 p.m. local start time for Game 2 between the Wild and the Golden Knights. But hey, television rules the world, and it's TV that made that happen. Where do we begin with that? Well, first of all, before we get into Monday's games, shout out to our guest yesterday, Oscar Froberg, on his Ice Guys debut. I should say it was a big-time guest, William Nylander, joining us on the program. According to many, had that resemblance to William Nylander. But a great debut from Oscar on the show. Definitely, we thank him for joining us. And I don't know where to begin with last night. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible, the hockey that we saw. It was obviously the best night of playoff hockey from an entertainment standpoint, for sure. It began with Montreal and Washington. From a betting standpoint, it was the worst game of the night for me because, we had the first period, Montreal scoring. They didn't. We had the first period over. That fell short. Washington got the only goal in the first period. Who else but Ovechkin? And second period, it kind of moseyed along that game. Washington could have been up by more than 1-0. I think we have to give Samuel Montembeault credit. He was outstanding in the opening period of that game. Washington, though, added to their lead, got it to 2-0, and they looked like they were in good shape in the third. But give this Montreal team credit. I mean, very impressive for a young team with a lot of inexperience as far as playoffs are concerned, outside of a couple players. Nick Suzuki, remember, was part of the team that went to the final in the COVID season, and they lost to Tampa Bay. But, there's not a ton of playoff experience for Montreal, but to battle back, and be down 2-0. And then when they got it to 2-1 with the Caulfield power play goal, they were all over. I couldn't believe watching it, how Washington was running around like chickens with their heads cut off in the D zone, the way they were. I mean, you got to give Montreal credit. They had the Capitals scrambling big time. And then, of course, they get the tying goal from who else? The captain, Nick Suzuki, to tie it up 2-2. And then just, that's the kind of season it's been for Washington, and that's the kind of season it's been for number 8, Alex Ovechkin. I mean, what can you say? He gets 2 goals, the game winner in overtime, and the Capitals survive. One hell of an effort from the Montreal Canadiens with a 3-2 victory in overtime over Montreal in that game. That was a great game. St. Louis, Winnipeg was a little dull, at times, but I'll say this, it was a physical game. Man, the weight that was being thrown around. You know what I loved during that game? The hit that Stanley laid on Kyrou in that game. That's one of the hardest fucking shake your brains, rattle your skull, body checks that you will see in a Stanley Cup playoff game. That was I loved it. Phenomenal by Logan Stanley. How about the Shen brothers going at it? I loved it. Luke and Braden getting at it and getting physical. There you go. You love to, who cares if we're brothers? Who cares? I mean, this is the Stanley Cup playoffs, and you're in my way. Get out of my way. I'm running you through the boards if I get the opportunity. Doesn't matter if Braden thinks of that of Luke and vice versa. We're getting that opportunity to do that. So that was pretty cool. And like I said, it was a great game. It was a good game. It was competitive again. Just the difference being, again, Winnipeg, extra capitalization on their chances than St. Louis, and a very solid defensive effort. This was an even better 60-minute effort, I thought, for Winnipeg compared to Game 1. And they take a 2-0 series lead, and they get it 2-0 up, going back to St. Louis with the win last night over the St. Louis Blues. Hellebuck was very solid in net, and really other than the shaky, first period in Game 1, He's been pretty, and even the second period, but third period on, him and the Jets have been very good in this series. It's been the Winnipeg Jets of the regular season, the last 4 periods that we have seen. No doubt. And now they have a 2-0 series lead. And yes, I saw that, Nick. Jim Montgomery with karaoke during the timeout. Late in the third, his team is trailing, and there he is singing I don't want to lose your love tonight. There he is doing the karaoke of that song playing it in the arena there at Canada Life Center. Yeah, Hockey Night in Canada, I know on their broadcast, they caught that. Jim Montgomery doing some karaoke on camera. That was great. I guess he's not feeling any stress. Even now, his team down 2-0 in the series. So that was pretty funny to see that. And then we get to the late games, and I don't know where we begin with those games. It was just craziness. Colorado, Dallas. I told you guys yesterday, don't throw this team. Don't bury the casket just yet. Don't lower that casket on the Dallas Stars just yet. I just wish I had bet a bit more on the money line than I did. I only had a small money line bet on Dallas pregame. I was more tied up with the best bet, which ended up winning for me. Dallas scoring in the first period, which cashed. And then, of course, they ended up going over their full game team total, which I had a smaller piece of. But the bigger bet was Dallas to score in the first period. And wow, we got it in the final minute with Tyler Seguin tying it up there 1-1. And I've got to mention this angle because I'm definitely mentioning it tonight because there's 3 of the games where the angle is in play. And I remember, Alex, I think you might too. I talked about this angle last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The goal for the team that lost the previous game in the series because you expect that team to be on the front foot early. You lost the previous game. Got to get off to a good start. Try to get on the board early. 2-0 yesterday. St. Louis losing game 1, scored in the first period last night in game 2. Dallas lost game 1, scored in the first period last night in game 2. So that angle's already 2-0. And this playoffs, and I can already tell you it was profitable last year too. And obviously we're going to have some more opportunities with that here tonight in the games. But Dallas tied it up. It was a huge goal to just get everyone settled down, get the building involved. And then you look at the second period, Dallas took the lead. Colorado responded very quickly, tied it 2-2. You got to give Logan O'Connor credit that in Dallas, it looked like it had slipped away. And even our guy, Matty Robinson, was starting to lose hope. When they had that 5-on-3 late in the second period, Dallas, they didn't convert on it. Logan O'Connor scores right after that to make it 3-2, and it looked like, boy, oh boy, it's slipping away from the Dallas Stars. But nope, how about Dodonov getting it back to tied 3-3, and then a guy inserted into the lineup after being a healthy scratch, Colin Blackwell, the most unlikeliest unsung of heroes, to win it in overtime for the Dallas Stars, and a 4-3 win. Hell of a call by Bob Wischusen, too, on that overtime winner.
Yeah.
But win there for the Dallas Stars as they get the 4-3 win, and they are very much in this series still. 1-1 as the scene shifts back to Denver. I thought Ottinger made key saves. That was very important. I thought even in a losing effort, Mackenzie Blackwood was really good again. I mean, he really was for the Colorado Avalanche. But again, a huge tying goal in the third, and Dallas, no Miro Heiskanen still, and no Jason Robertson, and everyone, saying they're up against it. There's no hope, that's too much to overcome against this Colorado team. And there they were tying that game, or tying up the series last night with a huge overtime win. I don't think they would have been out of the series, Dallas, if they go back to Denver down 2-0, but I'll tell you right now, it would have been very difficult. Now, they have had success in Denver last year in the playoffs, but you don't want to put yourself in that spot, down 2-0, going back to Denver for game 3, and they avoid it. I think everyone stepped up, in that game, and I was impressed with the entire lineup for Dallas to pull them through and get the job. And Thomas Harley, man, I can't say enough about that kid. I know he's you can't understand enough how much Peter DeBoer and the coaching staff is asking out of Thomas Harley right now. They're asking him to play almost 30 minutes a night. And this is a kid that's still maturing and growing as a young defenseman, trying to somehow fill the shoes of Miro Heiskanen, which is almost impossible to do. And he's doing the best he can. He has a great game last night, I thought, for the Dallas Stars. Big fan of Thomas Harley. And I think he's only going to get better for the Dallas Stars. And then we get to LA Edmonton. I mean, this game was just, I'll tell you what, I certainly bet it the right way. It's pretty crazy that in a game that ended, 6-5 LA, that I actually won a bet with Edmonton not to score in the first period. That's pretty crazy. but we did. I had LA to score in the first, and I had Edmonton under their 0.5 not to score in the first period. We cashed both of those. It was a perfect start for LA. They jumped. They got the early power play goal from Kuzmenko. They jumped on Edmonton early, and the thing that lit that lit the fire to get the comeback started was Edmonton did make it 4-1 late in the second period with that goal. That's kind of what got Edmonton thinking, you know what, if we can get an early one in the third, maybe we can still make a game of this. But still, through two periods, it was LA domination. And defensively, they suffocated Edmonton. They really did. I mean, 2 shots on goal, 3 shots on goal is what Edmonton got in the second period. That was it. And it looked like it was over. But credit to Edmonton. I think it was Edmonton didn't give up. No quit, give them credit. But I think part of it was complacency and a level of comfortability started to creep in with LA in the third period. Oh, we got this one. We've dominated. We can put it on cruise control. Can never do that when the 2 best players in the series still play for the other team. And that was McDavid and Draisaitl. McDavid had a hell of a third period, did everything he could. Try to will that team to come back and win that game. Absolutely crazy. They come all the way back. They get the 2 late goals when it was 5-3, because multiple times, like LA goes up 5-2, you think they put it away finally. But nope, 5-3. And then, of course, 5-4, 5-5 right after that. I would have loved Kemper to make that save, quite honestly, the 5th goal, the tying goal. I thought, great play by McDavid. What a move. Good shot inside the post and in, but I'd still like Darcy to have that one. He didn't, and it was 5-5. And then Deneau to the rescue, saves the day, beats Skinner, who, again, the questions are going to start to be asked of Skinner after last night, and gets that 6-5. I thought we were going to overtime once Edmonton tied it, but nope, 40 seconds left. Philip Deneau gets the game winner, and the Kings survive with a 6-5 win. Unbelievable, batshit crazy hockey game, especially the third period. And we were talking about this right before the game, and it's the way I'm going to throw it to Alex here is if the LA Kings had lost that, I don't know if there would have been a recovery for them from it. I really don't. It would have been that catastrophic loss, considering all the scar tissue from Edmonton built up over the last 3 years of them knocking your ass out of the playoffs. If you had not found a way to hang on and win that game, I could only imagine mentally what it would have done to the Los Angeles Kings. And shout out, too, to one of the best players on the Kings last night, Evan Bouchard. Hell of a game right there that he played for the LA Kings last night. Directly responsible for 2 of the LA goals. And look, he's a great offensive talent, but my gosh, at times still defensively, it can just go right off the cliff for Evan Bouchard. And it certainly did last night in that game against the LA Kings. He basically passed right to a Kings player right there. It was not a good night from him, to put it mildly. Alex, it was a good night overall. Got out of the night with a profit. The show best bet hit, and it was a good night overall, and just an incredible night of hockey. Alex, how do you sum it up? It's hard to.
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic, and for me, the betting was great as well. But we needed some luck, and that's going to happen during the playoffs. Sometimes we can cap this thing to the bone, but we still need some luck to break our way, and none bigger than Jimmy Snuggerud with that shot at the end of the first period to go in, cashing both teams to score, cashing first period over, cashing Blues to score a goal in the first period, and that being the only goal that they get in the entire game. So that was the all-important equalizer to wrap up that first 20 minutes of play in that contest. That was huge. And just a good game. Like I said, a great physical game, good playoff-style hockey game. Like I said, seeing those big hits, seeing guys who don't normally get physical, kind of pushing and shoving between the whistles. Those are the things we love about this time of year for sure. And then you just cap it all off. I won't skip over Colorado and Dallas. I will talk a little bit about that because, like you said, that was a game that was very up and down. And it wasn't a one where it looked like, even though you saw Colorado, like I said, get that goal after killing the 5-on-3. It seemed like, okay, maybe this game is out of reach for Dallas, but Dallas was still showing fight, still showing life to the point of, like you said, if they lost that game, we're not completely just throwing them out the window if they're down 2-0, but they keep that momentum going. Donoff with a huge goal to tie it. Blackwell's one of those guys. We talk about it every single postseason, and we'll talk about it every single postseason until the postseason no longer exists. You will have these third and fourth line guys who, even in the contest we're talking about, may not do much on the score sheet, but they step up and deliver in big time moments. Colin Blackwell, and he even said it, like I said, the post game presser. he said he felt like his game has always been built for the playoffs, and he's right. His style, that gritty, that go after everybody, get to the front of the net, get after the puck. Those guys get those big time goals, and like I said, they won't have the points needed to win a Conn Smythe. But when you look back at a series and you go, oh, that was the turning point. It wasn't Sagan delivering that goal. It wasn't Jamie Benn. It was a Colin Blackwell. So hats off to him. He's gone through so much in his career, so many injuries to even get to the point of being, with a good team and playing in the playoffs. So to have that goal, that's got to be a great feeling for him and great momentum for that Dallas team now to go into a 1-1 split and now head into Denver. And now you have to take your home ice back, show some fight. And like I said, now here's where we see, if Heiskanen, if he can be ready. Maybe we start to see some roaming. Same thing we talked about. Kind of funny how I mentioned this too. What Colorado did last night. They had Landeskog skate in the pregame. We talked about how he was activated off IR, but of course, as soon as the game starts, he's up in the suit in the press box. But that little bit of momentum, those mind games, those things, that's all part of the playoffs. And the fact that Dallas has that ace in the hole potentially, if Miro Haskinen's ready, you bring him back game 5 when you come back home, have him skate around, get that energy in that building going. Maybe that's something we see. So, like I said, I love that we're seeing these little head games from the coaches. Little, those intangibles mean so much, and they build up in a 7-game series.
That's their ace in the hole, and I think I don't think it's going to be in Denver. I think Game 5 is in Dallas is kind of the target that we might see Miro, and we know there's going to be a Game 5 now back in Dallas, regardless of what happens the next 2 games. We know Colorado's going to no. You can write it down right now. No question, their ace in the hole. They're what they hope is an emotional uplift situation for them will be in the lineup. Landeskog in Game 3. There's no question about that. They're going to put him in. They're going to hope they can squeeze every ounce of emotional lift that they can get from that coming off the tough overtime loss, and we'll see how that certainly impacts the series. And Matt, I'll throw it to you. And I do want to mention one last thing about the Montreal game. It's worth pointing out. Jimmy Murphy said it, and I agree with it. Demidov and Laine cannot be on the ice. They cannot be on the ice for that D-zone face-off in overtime. Those are not defensively responsible players. They are not defensively reliable players. And I think it's a situation where Marty St. Louis kind of showed his playoff coaching inexperience there. They cannot be on the ice in that defensive zone face-off right before Ovechkin scored in overtime. It was kind of a mistake. Now, I know he doesn't have last line change. You have to say that too, but there's no question that was certainly not the best coaching moment by any stretch of the imagination here for Martin St. Louis. We'll see if Montreal can respond.
This is breaking news from the Ice Guys.
And we do have breaking news, and this is cool. I'm glad that we finally do have some breaking news here on the show. We can use our great bumper there. Lou Lamoriello will no longer be the president and general manager of the New York Islanders. This is a firing. The Islanders and the ownership group have decided we're not renewing his contract. His contract expired after this past season, and they are not renewing it. So the New York Islanders will be looking for a new general manager, which means poor Patrick Waugh is just left tumbling in the wind here right now, wondering what his future is going to be. Because as you know, if you're going to hire a new GM, he often wants his own head coach, not exactly keep the guy he inherits. Brad Treliving kept Sheldon for 1 season that he inherited. But like I said, Lou Lamoriello, great career. Time to retire, man. You have kids and grandkids. You had an amazing career. It's time to hang him up because I think he's lost some touch, too, as far as the way you've got to construct a team in 2025 NHL hockey. I think that is a big issue that the Islanders had in making this change, and it's time. Great career, should be honored. He's been in front office executive work in this league for 3-4 decades now, going back to 80s and 90s. Time to enjoy retirement. You haven't had a good run the last few years. You haven't made proper decisions, proper contracts, giving people too much money, not re-signing guys you should have. Hello, Devon Taves. Hello. Maybe you should have re-signed that guy, and you did. Yeah, it's time. See you, Lou. Sweet Lou, you great career. We'll remember fondly down the road. We won't remember this Islander run all that fondly, but overall, I'm saying the overall body of work, we will. Enjoy your retirement living. This change had to be made. And for the New York Islanders, this is not just a small step. I think there's a big step in the right direction because I think Lou's made a bunch of blunders, and it's time to move on. Alex, your thoughts on the big breaking news? Lou Lamoriello out as Islanders president and GM.
Yeah, it's a much needed move, a much needed change, and like you said, Lou Lamoriello, his footprint on the game, won't be, we'll have it there for a long time. You know what I'm saying? We know what he's done, his body of work over the last 4 decades. Like I said, speaks for itself. But it's how you finish at the end. He had lost his fastball and his changeup and his curve, and like I said, the Isles were playing a style of hockey that was basically antique, and they've been doing it for quite a long time, and they just hadn't been able to find their footing. And they, like I said, wasted. I think they've wasted some great time of some of the guys that they had. You look at a guy like Brock Nelson, how he's doing in Colorado now. You had him for so many years and couldn't do squat with him. Anders Lee, more than likely, a guy that he's been the heart and soul of that team for quite some time. Probably could have won a cup somewhere else, but you've been kind of stringing him about with the system that you've played for many years. So it's a needed change on Long Island. Happy trails to Lou. Enjoy your retirement. But hopefully they can get things in the right direction, because that is a historic organization. And, when they play hockey the right way, we talk about how teams like Montreal and Ottawa, who had to struggle for a long time, finally get back in the playoffs. When you have a good, exciting Islanders team, which, to be honest, I had to go all the way back to like the 80s basically to really kind of remember any clips of a super duper exciting Islanders team. But when you have that, and you have that building in Long Island rocking and rolling, of course, new one now, that's good for the game. So, if they can make changes moving forward, and that rebuild might take a couple of years, but it starts with getting rid of the big piece, and that's Lou getting out of there.
Say I know who the Islanders are going to target for a GM search, but a guy getting a lot of praise. He's currently an assistant GM, director of player personnel with the Lightning, former NHLer, Jamie Pushor. Jamie Pushor is getting a lot of praise for the work he's done. And it wouldn't shock me if the Islanders go that route, not a previous veteran GM, but someone rising in the ranks, someone that's an assistant with another NHL team, or someone that's, a player development in some kind of level with a certain team. It wouldn't shock me to see them go in that direction. He's just one name that pops in my mind, because I just read something lately that they loved what Jamie Pushor's done with Tampa Bay.
You mean they wouldn't call Dale Talon?
That's, I think, going the wrong way. I think that the route they've got to I think they've got to look at someone that's up and coming, on the rise, an assistant GM. It's kind of similar to what St. Louis is doing with Alexander Steen, former Blue, who's going to take over from Doug Armstrong after Doug Armstrong retires, and he's an assistant now, and he's been in the front office for a couple of years. So no doubt, definitely that's just one player, one person that comes to mind. So, and I think they're going to go in that direction with taking someone that's an assistant and doing a pretty good job with a good organization. And I think that could end up being the kind of pathway the New York Islanders end up taking as far as making the decision as to who their new general manager will be. So there you go. Big time breaking news there. Lou Lamoriello out with the New York Islanders. All right. Finally, Matt's going to do some talking here on the show. It's been long enough. Matt, your thoughts on what we saw last night? And of course, I know you're a happy guy with the Stars evening up the series.
Yeah, good to even the series. But yeah, overall last night, some great games, as you mentioned. I would say the game that I saw the least of was just Blues Jets. Wasn't because I didn't want to watch it. I didn't really catch a lot of it. That end to the Canadians Washington game was insane. I think there was like 5 minutes left. I started cooking dinner and was like, yeah, that game's over. And then, it gets tied up. And then I'm like, well, shit, is the Stars game even going to be on this channel? Thankfully, on the ESPN app, you can flip over to the game now. You don't have to wait like you used to have to wait on cable. If you didn't have ESPNU or ESPN News, you're just sitting there with your thumb up your bum waiting for your game to start that you want to watch. But yeah, great game. Some of the stuff that Ovi's doing, I've seen people talk about it online. It's, for him to get 2 goals and assists, he blew up Cole Caulfield. To still be playing at that level at his age is crazy to see. So that was obviously an exciting game. Oilers Kings was kind of on in the background, obviously overlapped more with the Stars Colorado game. Seemed like it was sort of a snooze fest, especially, if you're an Edmonton fan for most of that game. And then at the end, you get that jolt of life. And then the Kings end up scoring in the last minute and kind of shutting down the hopes. I've got a couple buddies here in Reno from Edmonton, and they were like, that's just what it feels like to be an Edmonton fan. You get this glimmer of hope, and then, in the end, the other team gets the dub. So,
cheer up, Buttercup. You got to Game 7 of the final last year. That's what I would tell them. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, and then obviously the Stars Colorado game, I kind of deemed it as a must win. I know they went down 0-2 last year to Vegas and ended up getting it done in 7. I think Colorado's a little different team than Vegas was last year. And also, Colorado's home building momentum, there is factors there. They've got the Landy angle. I do think Landeskog will be back for Game 3. To me, it sort of reminds me of, I don't know if you recall the bubble Stanley Cup run where Dallas ended up playing Tampa. Stammer comes back. He's clearly injured. He scored, I think, on his first shift, and then that was really it. I think if I'm Dallas, it's like, hey, he's gonna come back. That building's gonna be rocking. Those fans are gonna be fired up. His teammates are gonna be fired up. You got to weather the storm for about 8 to 10 minutes, and then I don't think Landeskog, is in the same conversation as getting a Miro back. 3 years is a long time to be out of the league. His leadership goes without, I don't need to mention, he's a great leader, all of that, the locker room aspects, but just as a pure factor of the series, and I could be wrong, and, crazier things have happened, but I just think being out of the game for 3 years, I don't see him being, a big impact player, but that first 10 minutes, there is going to be a piece to it. So Dallas is going to have to sort of weather that storm. But yeah, last night's game, unfortunate they give up that first goal. But then, I think that Sagan goal, great play by Jamie Benn, patience coming around the net, Marchman kind of making up for he took the penalty that ended up being the Avalanche's first goal, makes a great heads up play and fucking writes Tyler Sagan getting on the goal sheet. I guess.
Well, I jumped off my couch after that goal because that was the show best bet in the final minute of the first period. I was doing it. I was screaming. I was yelling.
Yeah. And Sagan chip in. I mean, he was out for a lot of the season, especially down the stretch. Hip surgery. It's not something easy to come back on. I saw something that his doctor mentioned. He's the fastest he's ever seen a patient recover. And then there was a comment below that was like, well, yeah, most people getting hip surgery are 70 years old. So a freak athlete like Tyler Sagan, shocking, but it is pretty incredible. I think he mentioned last night in the post game, he bumped it up a month on what their projection was on his return. So feel happy for him. Second period, a little bit of back and forth. And then you mentioned not a great power play. I didn't really count it too much as a 5-on-3. It was 7 seconds. Colorado needed to win a draw, and that 5-on-3 ended, and that's what they did. It was more the back-to-back power plays, basically
big opportunities, extended PP time
to score.
They didn't convert,
and take the lead into the third, and to not only not convert and then give up that sick goal by Logan O'Connor. It was deflating.
Felt like a big swing at the time, correct?
Yeah, and I mean, you look at game one, that back and forth game, obviously not a 5-1 game in reality, but there's goals going off, bicycle kicks. It after that goal, it almost was like maybe it's just not the year. Maybe they're not going to get. It's
just not going to happen for us. That was your feeling at the time. I know. Yep.
And it was interesting. Messier in between periods was going. Dallas is playing a good game and they find themselves down going into the third, but even PK jumped in. Hey, they just need to find a way, get that next goal. And damn, did they come out in the third and play, as good as I think they can play, at least for 20 minutes of hockey. I feel like the puck was in the Avs end. Colorado iced the puck 20 times. It seemed like, they were getting chances. They had the Ben opportunity that they reviewed. Maybe it went in. It definitely did not go in, but they reviewed it to make sure, which you always appreciate. But obviously not a goal. But then again, Ben with a huge forecheck, turnover. Wyatt Johnston gets the puck to Dodonov, who just buries a trash goal in front. That place erupted. I wish I was in the building for that. And then in overtime, the Avs did have a few chances, and Andre did have to stand on his head, but I think Dallas probably outchanced them.
Blackwood made a couple big saves too in OT, before the goal.
Yeah, I mean, Duchesne had that backdoor that he probably scores that 7 out of 10 times. Blackwood makes a huge save, so kind of a back of it was honestly. I was sitting there like, if Dallas loses this overtime, that was the most entertaining 13 minutes of playoff hockey I've watched in a while. It was so back and forth. I think there was an 8-minute stretch with no whistles. What else can you ask for? And then Mr. Harvard grad Scratch in game 1 decides to not only score, but he scored on his own fucking rebound. He comes in, takes a shot, cuts through 2 guys on the Avalanche, and then
the
comes
puck
in
was just laying there. He found his own rebound on the
great awareness.
Shot. Damn, great
awareness.
Didn't give up.
Puts it up.
Sometimes you get your chance and then you skate away from the net. He didn't do that. That's a smart play.
Yep. But no, all in all, I thought it was a good game. I thought, it may have been one of the best games I've seen Jamie Benn play in honestly 3 or 4 years. So that's good to see. And I think it brings a lot of momentum into Denver. And then after tomorrow's game, they're going to get 2 nights off, which when you've got a guy like Miro kind of in the holster, every day counts. So hopefully they can bring that momentum into Denver tomorrow night. But yeah, good slate of games tonight. Really excited to see the Battle of Florida finally getting going.
Finally.
Feels like we're halfway through the first round, but yeah, good slate of games coming up tonight.
And one last point about that Dallas game, and then we'll get to tonight's games, is that penalty at the end of the third period was so chintzy. It was so chintzy. Tie game, about to go to overtime, and that's the penalty you call. It happened 98% of the time. They put the whistles away in that situation for something like that, which was a minuscule infraction, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, and Rantanen shitting his pants in the box, going, "Fuck! If it's me that caused this, he's already getting his."
And Stars Twitter's already getting frustrated with Mikko Rantanen. I saw it last night.
We got
sold a bill of goods with this. Twitter. Someone actually said that we got sold a bill of goods here. We're talking about Rantanen.
Wow,
joke.
Wow.
Come up. I mean, if you think back last year, Duchesne had the series clinching goal. He didn't do shit that whole series. Everyone thought he was hurt. Maybe Rantanen will close out the series and just put everything to bed. But yeah, looking forward to tonight's slate. I like that there's an early game, 3 p.m. my time. So
yeah, no kidding. Yep.
Hit the gym after work and then right to a game. So,
and there it is on your screen right now. The first game for this Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, as Matt mentioned, on the West Coast, 6 p.m. Eastern, all for television purposes, so that ESPN can have a triple header here tonight. New Jersey and Carolina. Carolina minus 260, home favorites, 5.5 the total. The worst performance, and it's not even debatable, in game 1 from any single team was the New Jersey Devils. Not even close. They were completely dominated. They were obliterated, even though that final score only ended up being 4-1. It felt like it was 8-1. They were dummied. They were down, 35-8 in shots on goal at one time in that game. They could barely get into the Carolina zone, let alone get a shot, let alone get a great opportunity. That is how bad it was for the New Jersey Devils in that game. They were just completely taken apart by the Carolina Hurricanes. Not only that, but they obviously suffered some key injuries in that game on the blue line to 2 guys that are already ruled out for game 2 tonight. Sheldon Keefe said it this morning that both Brendan Dillon and Luke Hughes will miss this game tonight. Both of them got injured in game 1. That's 2 of their top 3 defensemen outside of Dougie Hamilton, or top 4, I should say. Brett Pesce's in that mix too. But after Brett Pesce and Dougie Hamilton, Dillon's great, shut down, stay at home, defensive-minded player, block shots. And obviously Luke Hughes is one of their more dynamic puck movers from the blue line, going to be a good player. And now you take both of those guys out of the lineup, and you've got Simon Simone Nemec here, and a very little playoff experience from him, and Dennis Cholowski. And I know Dennis Cholowski well because I've seen his name pop up for years. He's a career, fringe NHL player and a lot of time in the minors. That's what we're talking about with Dennis Cholowski. So, this is not the second coming of Paul Coffey on the blue line here to save the day for the New Jersey Devils. So there's some real concern here going into this game with the depleted and shorthanded New Jersey blue line. And I think Carolina is probably going to take advantage of it, and I know New Jersey from a emotional standpoint, that's an embarrassing performance, quite honestly, in game one. I would think that early in the game, you are going to get one heck of a push from them and one heck of an effort, but I don't know if they can sustain it for 60 minutes. Now, the angle's strong, profitable last year, 2-0 to start this year's playoffs. First period goal for the team that lost the previous game. And I'm going to take that here with New Jersey, in spite of the defensive concerns. New Jersey to score in the first period is a pretty cheap price. -105, -110 is what we're looking at. Devils to score in the first period. I do like that. That's the only Devils position I want in this game. Just banking on that was such a horrific game and performance in game one that in the first period we'll get the best push from the New Jersey Devils early to try to atone for that performance. So, and get on the board early. Remember, that is Freddie Anderson at the other end. Like, maybe throw some pucks on net in the first period instead of being outshot 15-2 in the first period. If they can do that, I think Anderson, there's still some concern there. I do. I didn't love that goal he gave up. That was, and Ferraro nailed it on the broadcast on Sunday. Off the angle, you can't give up that much of the opposite side of the net. He just lost his net a little bit, Anderson, on the first goal that I believe it was Heishier that scored it for the New Jersey Devils there. So, like I said, that was just, Anderson, to me, there's still some question marks. Throw pucks on net early and often if you're the New Jersey Devils. Now, at the same time, Carolina's got to allow you the opportunity, and they can shut you down and just, puck possession is their game. But I think you're going to get a good effort and push early from New Jersey, and that's all I trust them to do. Push early, maybe get on the board first period, which I'm hoping for. I also like Carolina team total, though, in this game. Full game team total, over 3.5 even money. Because I think as this game goes on, they're just going to work over that shorthanded, depleted blue line. I shudder to think of how the 5-6D on this Devils team, Cholowski and Nemec, are going to hold up for the majority of this game. And again, you're going to ask impossible amount of minutes out of Hamilton, Pesce, Kovacevic, who Keefe ripped publicly just a few weeks ago. It's just asking a lot, in my opinion, for this Jersey team for the 60 minutes to make do with what they've got on the back end right now. So I'm going to go with Jersey to score in the first period, and I'm going to go with Carolina team total for the full game over 3.5. Because again, if you think Carolina is going to win the game, and I still think they do, it's just amazing that outside of Winnipeg last night in their 2-1 win in game 2 against St. Louis, every other winning team in the Stanley Cup playoffs so far, when they've won the game, they've gone over their team total. Every single one, with the exception of course, Winnipeg last night in game 2 against St. Louis. Yeah, you know what? We have a group chat, and one of the people, and he's good content creator when it comes to NHL stuff as well, a top cheddar, big Devils fan. He loves Markstrom over saves, and I couldn't argue with it one bit. I mean, it's just, we saw it on Sunday. I should have actually taken the saves prop on Sunday in game 1. It was no sweat. I mean, it went way over his saves prop because they just got hemmed in so much. So, yeah, no argument there with Ryan in the chat. Markstrom over saves is probably a great bet, especially with this undermanned New Jersey blue line. Alex, what do you think here? Game 2, Devils, Hurricanes.
Yeah, this is a spot where I love most of the early looks. Like you said, New Jersey to score first. I think we do see them come out and press. You can get them, like I said, -105, that first period team total over. You can get both teams to score at +210 at FanDuel. And I love this first period over. Already +105, you can get at MGM, +100 at some other shops. So this is one where play it small and then add on a little bit more, a couple minutes into the game, try and grab +120 or 125. But I do think we see goals here early in this contest. And this is one where certainly, even if Carolina gets on the board first, Devils are going to have to go all out and press even harder as soon as this game starts. They have to play like they're already trailing in this game 1-0. Not just in the series. You have to play like the game that you're already down a goal. they have to keep that kind of mentality, that kind of pace and tempo, I believe, to hang around with Carolina. Do they win this game? I don't think so. I think they're actually in trouble, and I bet it yesterday. I did. I grabbed Carolina. You can get it as high as 3-1 at DraftKings, plus 260 offshore at BetOnline. But I have Carolina to go on and sweep them. Would not shock me one bit to see the Devils fight back early, and then Carolina just press a little bit harder and get this win. And I just feel like the momentum's just kind of rolling in Carolina's favor and just kind of slipping away with New Jersey, especially with the injuries mounting on that blue line. They started to pile up any more injuries. I could just see New Jersey kind of folding up here. So definitely looking at first period over, both teams to score, and New Jersey to score in the first period. But then we'll be looking at things more Carolina-centric betting in game.
I'm just trying to look back, and off the top of my head, just based on going back in time, I think Carolina's been pretty good, especially in the first round in recent years of going up 2-0 at home. Yeah, they've been very good at it. I'm just looking back now. Islanders 2 years ago, first round, they went up 2-0 at home. New Jersey, second round that year, they went up 2-0 at home. Last year in the playoffs, first round against the Islanders, they went up 2-0 in the series at home. They won both game 1 and game 2 at home. They've had a really good pattern of not letting down after winning game 1 at home, staying on the front foot, putting the pedal to the metal, and winning game 2 as well at home, this Carolina team. Matt, what do you think here, New Jersey, Carolina?
This one's going to be interesting. If it's going to, how much New Jersey pushes back. I mean, I think they'll bring some effort, but I just think they're depleted injuries. They're missing Jack Hughes, obviously, is a big hurt to this team. And I think Carolina's rolling. Watching the game, what would that have been? Sunday night. I just felt like, New Jersey gave some pushback towards the end, but I just thought it was almost like, why is New Jersey in the playoffs? Like, they just didn't even look like they were able to compete. Again, I think they'll give some pushback, but I think for me, I love Carolina team total. I'm going to ride that, especially at home. I think they get to 4 here. And then I know Alex mentioned a few different first period plays. I have a few different myself, but they're a little different. I'm going to ladder the first period over 1.5, over 2, and over 2.5. I'm seeing over 2.5 plus 320. That's bargain bin material. If you think New Jersey chips in and gets 1, you're asking Carolina to get 2 in the first. Maybe New Jersey comes out and gets 2 in the first. You get Carolina to get 1. So either way, I do like goals early. Because I like that so much, I think, I could make a case for the over by Fecta, but I think here I'm just going to stick to Carolina team total over 3.5, and then the first period over 1.5, 2, and 3, respectively.
This is Matt on the show and Stefan Nason playing. So do we bet Stefan Nason to score? Here's the problem, though. Keefe dropped him down to the third line for this game, it looks like, tonight. And he's not going to be on that top line anymore. Still going to get power play. I'd still sprinkle on it, but I don't know if I like it nearly as much. Andre Palat's going to be with Hischier and Meyer. Howla, Mercer, and Bratt going to be the second line. The good news is, despite the friendly fire from his own goalie, Jacob Markstrom, Cody Glass repair, Cody Glass replace. Cody Glass is going to play tonight here for the New Jersey Devils here in this game. So that's that's good news in spite of the problems with Hughes and Dillon being out on the blue line. For Carolina, Jackson Blake, I still think there's good value there with him to score a goal. I still think Martinook worth a shot, even though he didn't score the last game for the Carolina Hurricanes, but still think that he's worth a look as well. As far as blocked shots are concerned, we always say Slavin for Carolina. I think for New Jersey, Brett Pesce. He's definitely someone that I think stepping up as far as the block shots component for them are concerned. So definitely something to keep an eye on there as far as some of the props I'm interested in. But the Markstrom saves makes a ton of sense to me as well, based on what we saw in game 1 and the depletion of the blue line for New Jersey. I lean to the over by Fecta, but I don't love it. I might sprinkle on the over by Fecta here, but I like the just New Jersey in the first period to score a goal and the Carolina team total for the game over 3.5, more than that. All right, next up, we've got Ottawa and Toronto. We've got the Toronto Maple Leafs minus 160, home favorites, 5.5 being the total here in this game. The Leafs, looked like the team that's been in the playoffs for many years, and Ottawa showed some immaturity, lack of experience in game one. They came unglued. They lacked their discipline and composure as that game went on. We're in the penalty box way too much, when really at 5-on-5, it was a pretty competitive game before it just came apart and unraveled for Ottawa in that disastrous second period. So we'll see how it continues, if Ottawa can rebound here tonight. You know what's funny about that game is that even though the Leafs won that game, and they did deserve to win that game, a lot of the dominance was special teams. Their power play just made mincemeat of Ottawa's penalty kill. And Ottawa's power play didn't do much with the chances they had. The fewer chances they had, but they still didn't make anything of it. At 5-on-5, Ottawa had their best chances. And at 5-on-5, it was a close to even hockey game, if you actually look at the statistics. So that's going to be something Ottawa can build on, believe it or not, despite losing game one. If we stay out of the box, if we don't give the Leafs power play, which is incredible now that they already had Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, who's having a bounce. He's having a renaissance season offensively. And of course, Tavares scored one of those goals. But now you got a Matthew Nyes in the equation too. And this power play is lethal, potential to be lethal. And shout out to Mark Savard, assistant coach for Toronto, who's worked on that power play all year on Berube's staff. And he's done a great job with it. And then it's funny, I was watching that game and we're seeing Ottawa kind of fall apart before our eyes in that second period. It's getting away from them. You see this good staff that Toronto has, Berube, and you see Savard, who's done a nice job with the power play, especially Lane Lambert, a former head coach in the league, longtime assistant with Barry Trotz in Nashville, going back even further. He's an assistant on this Leaf staff. And then you look at the Ottawa staff, and Travis Green's done a hell of a job. But then you see a guy like Mike Yeo next to him. And I know, obviously, Alex B. Smith's no Mike Yeo fan. And you think, boy, oh, boy, how do you not? Which staff do you want? When it's all, I know which staff Alex wants of the two. There's no question. But that's a hell of a staff Toronto's got. And it looked like, too, from a coaching standpoint, they had Toronto a little bit more prepared than Ottawa staff did. It looked like a very well-prepared Leaf team for that game one. And that's no slight on Keefe. But I felt better prepared than maybe Keefe had them prepared in years past. In the playoffs, there's no doubt. That's a really good and experienced staff that he's got there, Craig Berube. I don't think Ottawa's going away, though. And like I said, if they keep this series at even strength, they were able to forecheck and get some chances against Toronto. Now, Stolarz was very good once again. But I think Ottawa will push back hard and play a better game tonight. Is it enough to win? I don't know if I'm going to go that far and take Ottawa to win the game. But I think this will be a tough game for Toronto. I think Ottawa will respond the right way, and I like Ottawa to score in the first period. That's going to be the look for me. It's 2-0 in the playoffs. Ottawa and New Jersey, and then, of course, later on we'll get to it with Minnesota. They're all in that angle. Teams that lost the previous game. Scoring a goal in the first period is something I like to look at. It went 2-0 last night. Now, it was less than a minute in both games away from being 0-2. I fully understand that. It could have easily went 0-2. I mean, St. Louis scored their first period goal in the last, second, essentially, of the period. And Dallas got theirs in the final minute. That close to being 0-2, and we went 2-0 with that angle instead. I get it, but it's still been a good angle. It was good last year. I think it'll be a good push from Ottawa early, and I like them to get on the board in the first period. You can get minus 140 or so with Ottawa to score in the first period of this game. This could be. I feel this is the game. After last night, I'm pissed I didn't land on any of the draws last night. And I said, for a guy that's rocking a draw season shirt and loves draws at this time of year, I'm going to be more aggressive with draws, and I'm going to sprinkle on the draw here with Ottawa and Toronto here in game two. I sense this could be an overtime type of game, kind of like Colorado-Dallas. Game one didn't go to OT, and then last night it did. I think we might have the chance to see overtime here in this game between these two teams. The total's tricky because 5.5, I could see it going either way. I could see it being maybe a little tighter tonight than it was in game one, and game one flew over the total. I really did like the over in game one. But at 5.5, I do still lean to the over because of where the number is. I think 5.5 still could be a little bit light, given the pace that we saw, too, in that Sens Leafs game one. So I'd play over before under at 5.5. Alex, Battle of Ontario, game two. What do you think?
Yeah, this is one where I'll be doing more live betting than anything else, but I do take did take a little sprinkle, I should say, with the draw. Plus 340 I got at FanDuel. I was on the draw last game. Like I said, it was just one-sided affair. Ottawa has to come out hot, though. Like I said, I lean with what you're saying with Ottawa getting a goal in the first period. The biggest thing is come out with a head full of steam in the positive direction. You can't try and bully and beat up Toronto and try to dictate pace that way. The referees are not going to allow it. We already saw that in game one. So now that plan's out, you go to plan B. Plan B is play the game you've been playing all fucking season long from an offensive standpoint. Be responsible defensively. Take the body, let the guys know you're there, land those hits, but be smart about it. You cannot afford to give the Toronto Maple Leafs right now any kind of extended power play time. They will bury you, and this series will be over in a blink of an eye. So I'll be looking for live bets in this one, but I do have a little bit of a sprinkle in the draw. I expect a much cleaner game from Ottawa here in game 2.
I was so confident in Matthew Nyes scoring a goal in game 1. I used him in that puck luck contest that both Alex and I are in. DJ Mitchell, who's been on the show before, asked us to be in it, and we said sure. And I used it as a selection for the contest on Sunday. So I'm betting him again. You have to. He's the prototypical guy that could do some serious damage here in the postseason for the Leafs, just with the way he plays. He goes hard to the net, goes to the tough areas of the ice. We saw that's how he scored the goal against Ottawa in game 1. So yeah, Nyes worth a shot in my opinion here for the
I like
Toronto
Pinto
Maple
for
Leafs.
Ottawa.
Pinto had some chances.
I got a gut feeling with Pinto tonight.
Yeah, and he had some chances, parlay Pinto, the other night. I still think Perron, given the fact he's a good playoff veteran for the Senators, and he's had some success scoring on Stolars, because I remember Jonathan posting the stat about it prior to game 1, could be worth a look here as well. No doubt about that. So those are a couple of props here for me in this one. Matt, what do you think here? Battle of Ontario, game 2, Ottawa, Toronto.
It's just hard for me to, back Ottawa. Again, things that you guys mentioned, almost like lack of playoff maturity, taking some dumb penalties. Toronto, despite not really having the longevity success in the playoffs, they've been there, done that as far as being in the playoffs, and I feel like that really showed on Sunday. I think Stolar has played really well. It looks like he's likely going to be back in. Hasn't officially been confirmed yet. I know it wasn't on the ice for practice yesterday, but it's looking like he'll be in. So yeah, I lean Toronto here. I don't know if I want to lay minus 160 on it. What I'm considering doing, because I feel pretty confident in Carolina, is I'm going to parlay Toronto and Carolina money line. I think it's like plus 120. If either game goes to OT, I'm not asking for winning in regulation. It's just Toronto and Carolina winning their games tonight at home. So I think that's something I'm gonna look at. I do like goals in this one though, so I probably will jump on the over by Fecta. I think you'll get some push from Ottawa, and I think if they do continue to take some dumb penalties, I think Toronto makes them pay for those. So over by Fecta here, and then I've got Toronto in a parlay with Carolina money line as two teams I like to win tonight.
Yeah, no doubt. Timmy Stützle, that's actually a good bet from Perlo. This guy has 12 shots in the last 3 games. He had 3 shots in game 1. And if you're only going to get, if you're going to get 1.5 shots on goal over minus 140, that's probably a pretty good bet, because he's gotten a 3, in the last, at least 3 shots on goal in the last 3 games. And yeah, more shooting the puck, Stützle, less, stuff we saw from him in the last game. He's got to stop chirping the refs. Because he embellishes at times, and the refs don't like that. And then when he's throwing, chirping and verbal, complaining about the calls to the refs on top of that, he's really going to get a bad reputation among the referees. So that's something certainly he's got to try to fix, no question. All right, next up we've got finally it's game 1, Battle of Florida. We're finally going to see this series, which we think has the potential to be a great series, getting underway tonight. Tampa Bay minus 160, home favorites 5.5. That's not right. That's not even close to being right. Sorry, we screwed up the price on this. Minus 120 with Tampa Bay as a home favorite. I'm not laying minus 160 with Tampa Bay. Minus 120, 5.5 the total. I am laying minus 120 though with Tampa Bay. Now I've already got them to win the series, so this is like with LA last night. I'm already committed and invested in them to win the series, LA. So I kept the LA Kings money line bet a little smaller because of that. Same thing here. Tampa Bay, I've got them in the series. Bet them to win the series. We're going to keep it a little smaller with the Lightning here in game one individually, but I still like them. They've actually, I think they're going to be the team that's going to kind of pounce early in this series. A Florida team that's, again, had guys in and out, in and out, in and out of the lineup. The last time Tampa played Florida in the series, they got absolutely dismissed. And it was, I think it was Florida with relative ease in that game. Tampa remembers that. I think you're going to see a focused team early on here in this series, Tampa Bay. And like I said, I just don't like the in and out and the changes in the lineup, the different combinations that Florida's played down the stretch. It's been juggling the lines because guys have been in, guys have been out, injuries, rest. And plus, look, I know Matthew Tkachuk could be back tonight. He's a game time decision to return. I actually think it's a bad thing for Florida if he plays tonight. And you think, are you nuts? Matthew Tkachuk's one of the best players on this team. Now, this guy has not played significant hockey since early February. And now you're throwing him in there that first game in the playoffs when he hasn't played in months. He's going to need a game to ramp it up. That's just simple as that. He's a hell of a player. We know that, Matthew Tkachuk. Tough as it gets. He'll try to play through anything. And I'm just very impressed he could be back this quickly. But it's going to take, I think, a game for him to start feeling that rhythm again and that confidence a little bit. So, like I said, and with Tampa Bay, Vasilevsky's got a ton of rest. He's finally going to be, I think, as fresh as he's been entering the playoffs. Florida, obviously, I like their four lines. I don't like their blue line as much this year. I've said that. Gus Forsling, phenomenal. And I like Mikkola. Kulikov's all right. But Seth Jones still worries me in his own end. Good offensively, a little shaky defensively. Balinskis and Schmidt is a okay third pair. It's not a great third pair. And missing Ekblad, I think, is going to hurt here when it comes to this Florida team in this series. So I like Tampa in the series, and I'm going to take him here in game one, -120. I think it fits well. I think the fact that last time they faced Florida just dummied them, kind of embarrassed them like it was Florida in a cakewalk. The last time these rivals met in the playoffs, I think Tampa's going to know, hey, let's send a statement early that could be different this time. So Tampa Bay here in this one, -120. I like this one as an over by fact. I think just the first game and both teams being off for so long, there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be sloppiness. There's going to be some turnovers. And I don't think either team's best defensive game is going to be locked in here, considering the amount of time both of these teams have been sitting around waiting for this series to begin. Alex, what do you think here? It's game one, Battle of Florida. We're all looking forward to it. Florida, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a fun series, and this is one where the only two bets I've made so far into the series was Brandon Hagel to lead the Bolts in goal scorer and lead the series in goal scorer. But I have not taken a side one way or the other in the series. And like I said, everybody's kind of gotten their takes. Ian, I know you like Tampa Bay. Bailey in the chat believing Florida could win this in 4 or 5 games. There's a lot of back and forth here, and you can make great cases for both of these teams. Now, I'm leaning with you in the sense of, the X factor in the negative direction could be for Florida, that defense not being as strong as it was last year. And like you said, there's some question marks in that back end. Also, Sergei Bobrovsky, for as well as he's played in this last 2.5 years, I still of the ilk that, okay, he could still give you a bad game or two. We haven't seen it in a very long time. But if there's one goalie, if I'm to say, okay, we have 2 quality goalies here in Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky, if there's one I trust to just say, oh my God, they might fall apart in the series, we'd probably lean a little bit more toward Bobrovsky than Vasilevsky. So, but I do think both goalies are obviously going to loom large in the series, and certainly in each contest. This is one where, like I said, having the rest, having a little bit of momentum, I like goals here. So I will be on that full game over 5.5 pregame, playing that small and looking to add a little bit more on in-game. First period over, I'm not touching pregame at all. I'm going to wait to try and grab that live as well. So I think this is one where we definitely see goals back and forth. I also have Nikita Kucherov plus 180 by himself to score a goal. I usually don't bet top line, goal scorers that often, but I do think he'll be one of those guys to get on the board. And I have him tied with a multi-sport parlay. I'll mention that a little bit later on. So that's one of the plays that I do have pregame, but everything else I can kind of look for in game. Definitely do expect to see goals here, so I'm liking the over. Full game, I got that 5.5 minus 108 at DraftKings, the best price available, and then we'll be adding on the bifecta in game.
Yeah, Dev Olson. Yeah, Florida could absolutely win this series. Of course, they got hearts of a champion, hearts of lions. They've got incredible, they've got an incredible will, no doubt, and the will is not anything to be questioned at all with the Florida Panthers. But my biggest concern is going to be the fact that guys have been in and out of the lineup for weeks, if not months. And even if Tkachuk plays tonight, Matthew Tkachuk, he hasn't played in months. And all of a sudden, he's got to ramp up to playoff speed, playoff intensity, playoff rhythm right off the hop. That's not an easy adjustment to make. And that's why I think even if I didn't like Tampa in the series, this is important to mention. If I didn't like Tampa in the series, let's say I liked Florida in the series, I still think Tampa Bay would probably be a decent way to go here in game one individually because of everything I just mentioned. I think there's just a little bit more rhythm and traction with their forward combinations, their D. And while Florida's D's gotten weaker, there's still some questions with Tampa. Like, how good is Lilleberg and Perbix going to play? I thought they both played better this year. They improved. But McDonough and Chernak, McDonough's the key. They got Ryan McDonough back from Nashville, and this guy's still solid in his own end, physical. And if you want a block shots prop for Tampa, Ryan McDonough led Tampa Bay in block shots this season from the blue line. So Ryan McDonough is probably the guy you want. Chernak's not a bad option either, but especially Ryan McDonough as far as the block shots are concerned on the Tampa side. Moser played solid this year, paired with Victor Hedman. So like I said, I feel better about Tampa's blue line this year in the playoffs than I did last year. And like I said, I think Florida's blue line, Forsling's still good. I like Kulikov. I like Mikkola. But I think there's a bigger drop-off, and don't underestimate no Aaron Ekblad to begin this series for Florida. Matt, what do you think here, Panthers Lightning?
Very exciting game. I agree with both of your sentiments on overs here. So I think it's a good same game parlay. Matty Rob special, first period, full game, 5.5. Should get a good plus price with the over being 5.5. Outside of that, I love Tampa team total over 2.5 and 3. 2.5 is a little juice. I think it's like minus 140 when I got in. It's like minus 160. You should get over 3 right around even money. I still like it at that. You mentioned Tampa kind of got rolled last year in the first round against Florida. They did get 3 goals at both games at home, despite losing both of those games. So series history shows, I guess they did win one of those games. They scored 6, and then they lost the other one 5-3. So they got to 3 at home, even though they kind of got rolled in the series. So I would expect Tampa to come out hard tonight. And then I've got a couple props I'm kind of bouncing around, but I may mention one later in the show.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go for me with for Florida, even though I like Tampa in the game, doesn't mean we can't bet Florida props. Mackie Samoskevich, if he's on the second line, he's got value. He's actually showed me some good offensive instincts and skill down the stretch for the Florida Panthers. We'll have to see how that plays out, but I think he's worth a look. Evan Rodriguez was a good playoff performer. There's I know Verhaeghe, Barkov, Reinhart, even Bennett, Tkachuk, if he plays, they're the obvious choices. Marchand even, but I think Samoskevich and Rodriguez, there's some value there. And for Tampa, Yanni Gourde on the top line, man. And he's the playoff type of guy, physical, playing with Point and Kucherov. You're going to get the value on Yanni Gourde playing on that line. Hagel, I think, is a good look. He's a playoff player, performer with Cirelli and Gensel. And don't sleep on that third line. I think any three of those guys on the third line for the Lightning. Nick Paul, Gage Gonsalves, who had a very good year, and Connor Geekie, who's entering the playoffs in really good form. The younger brother of Morgan Geekie for Tampa Bay. Connor Geekie, don't sleep on him. He's played well down the stretch offensively. Both are great coaches. I hate choosing between Maurice and Cooper. We just got to call it a wash. I mean, they're phenomenal coaches. They're both going to be in the Hall of Fame, too. That's another thing. Not only are they both Stanley Cup champs now, they're both going to be in the Hall of Fame. Slam dunk, not even a debate. So tough to choose in the coaching department. All right, next up, final game for Tuesday night, Minnesota, Vegas, game 2. Vegas minus 240, home favorites, 5.5 the total here in this game. This is Minnesota had a lot of good moments in game 1, but at the end of the day, Vegas leaned on them with their physicality. And, obviously that's another thing too. Another team that's got to stay out of the box is Minnesota when it's all said and done. The power play, Dorofeyev, that was a huge power play goal at the time, which gave Vegas the lead. They ended up extending it with Brett Howden's goal down the left wing side, beating Gustafsson, made it 3-1. Yeah, Minnesota, and Boldy, credit to him. He got both Minnesota goals. That's the problem, though, for Minnesota. Top line was solid. Boldy and Kaprizov had some magic going. Didn't get a whole lot from anybody else. That's going to have to change moving forward. This definitely, I like the draw a little bit. I get the sense Minnesota will play hard tonight. Will it be enough to win? I think it might be enough to push this to overtime. They did almost get it to overtime in game 1. And, of course, we got the miracle Vegas team total and full game over winner thanks to the Brett Howden empty netter with 0.1 seconds left. So I don't mind a sprinkle on the draw here. I don't trust Minnesota enough to win the game, but I'm going to take Minnesota to score in the first period. Same thinking as what we talked about with Ottawa and with New Jersey, the team that lost the previous game. I think pushes hard early in the game, focused on having a strong, fast start, and hopefully it's enough to put one past Aiden Hill in the opening 20 minutes. So that's the bet I like the most here, really. Sprinkle on the draw, too. I think it's a lower scoring game here. I'd lean under, but draw, we'll take that. But the bet I like the most is I think Minnesota can get one in the opening 20 minutes. Again, this angle's 2-0 in the playoffs, and we're taking it again here. Minnesota off the loss to score in the first period, and you can get a pretty good price on that in the minus 120 range. Alex, Minnesota, Vegas.
I'm going to go a little step further with that look, and I'm going to take Minnesota to score the first goal in the first period plus 180. I think they can come out and get that taken care of, but then that's when I would start leaning more toward Vegas, probably go Vegas next goal within that spot. I do think this is a game that goes past overtime. I felt that just from the very beginning of the series. Also would be fitting with this being an 11 o'clock Eastern start that this game goes the latest of all of them. So I did.
We'll all be up at 2:30 a.m. Eastern time watching overtime. Probably you just you wait and see. Yeah,
absolutely. Especially when I have to get up at 8:40 in the morning. So we're going to draw plus 360 here. I also have. I'm doing this with pretty much every draw that I have played. I didn't do it with the. I haven't picked out the player that I'm looking for in the last game, but with the draw here, I'm going with that game to reach overtime and overtime goal scorer. Pavel Dorofeyev, get him 55-1. So that's something that I will be sprinkling on for sure. And I'm going with the 3-3 correct score. You can get that plus 1,500 as well, which means I'm looking at the over, 5.5 minus 112. So over, draw, correct score 3-3, Pavel Dorofeyev to get the game winner in overtime. And then I'll be playing Minnesota first goal of the first period plus 180.
I've got another Ian Song reference. This is brand new. We've talked about Dorofeyev a lot, and it just popped in my head the other day. It's just, it kind of sounds like that, the way that 80s song sounded. It was an 80s song by Michael McDonald, who was with the Doobie Brothers, and James Ingram. It was a duet, Yamo Be There. Yamo Be There, I bet, oh, Yamo Be There. That was the song, and it just popped in my head, Dorofeyev, Bop. But Dorofeyev, and it's just there we go. That's our song reference now for Pavel. It just popped in my head. It's just got that similar cadence, the 4 syllables exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. See what my brain comes up with. Aren't you fascinated? Aren't you just amazed? Matt, good time to move on. Matt, what do you think here? Minnesota, Vegas.
Yeah, for this one, I'm just going to be on the first period over. I think pregame. I kind of agree with Alex's angle. If Minnesota goes up, then I'd probably take Vegas. It's just hard to bet against Vegas. I think they're getting some calls, and it's not to say that that's why they're winning or why they won game 1. Specifically, but I just it's hard to bet against them. Do I think Minnesota could chip away in this game and even the series? Absolutely, but it's just hard betting against Vegas, when there's some pretty obvious calls go ahead and missed, at least in game one. So we'll see how tonight goes, but I'm going to keep it simple and just take the first period over.
All right, first period over here for Matt Robinson. And I'm going to start doing that. I did that right now, the actual song reference, so people can look it up there. There it is. I just posted it in the YouTube chat there. Yeah, Yamo Be There. That's the name of the song. Michael McDonald James. I think it was a Billboard like top 10 hit or something back in those days. Yeah, it was good. It was catchy, actually. A lot of the 80s stuff is cornball as fuck, but it was catchy. That's the way I look at that decade of music, no doubt. Great stuff. Oh, just quickly on props, I agree with the Dorofeyev Puppetto. Yeah, Dorofeyev for Vegas, I agree. He's, I think, going to have a pretty good offensive playoffs for the Vegas Golden Knights. Barbashev's got value. That line was quiet in game one, despite them winning. I could see them being a little bit better. Brandon Saad had chances. The question is, does he actually convert on those chances, is the question going into game two. Brett Howden and Nicholas Waugh, those two guys, I thought they were buzzing offensively as much as anybody for Vegas in game one. And Carlson, I would take another shot with him. For Minnesota, like I said, they need more from just Boldy, Eriksson Ek, and Kaprizov. Will they get more beyond those guys is going to be the question. Marco Rossi's down to the fourth line now, so something's going on there. Obviously, John Hines trying to send a message perhaps, but looks like Marco Rossi could be on the fourth line here tonight for the Minnesota Wild. Good stuff. Great show. Shout out to the chat. Hit the like button. Patreon exclusive live betcast Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you join us. We're looking forward to it. And note the start time, 6:30 Eastern, because that's the first game of the night coming up on Thursday. So Thursday, April 24th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. The only way to tune into the betcast and join us on the stream is to be a Patreon member. Goalie charts, totals charts, daily betting cards, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. Patreon.com/IceGuys, just $10 per month. Make sure you get on board. And again, we've got plenty of Patreon exclusive live betcasts coming up the rest of the playoffs. And the majority of our betcasts will be Patreon exclusive. So make sure you get on board for the rest of the playoffs. Just $10 per month, patreon.com/IceGuys.
And also check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. You've got 2 days left to save 10% on orders with 3 items or more. So you hit the redeem button at the homepage, add 3 or more items to your cart, and 10% will be taken off at checkout. We've got all kind of new items and stuff in the store. Great time to get a cap, get a hoodie, get a t-shirt, get all 3 right now and save 10% off for the next 2 days. That's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
And there it is. I knew Addison would be on the case. He's adding that song to the Ice Guys playlist as we speak. There you go. So there you go. Great job, Addison, with that. All right, Bargain Bin Special of the night. Best bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Support for the Ice Guys podcast is provided by Boston Hemp Incorporated, Tailgaters Social, and a big thank you to all that subscribe to the Ice Guys Patreon page. Everyone loves a perfect pair. Bacon and eggs. Thunder and lightning. Mario and Luigi. A hot dog with fries. Ian and Alex B. That's right. Everyone loves a perfect pair. So why not pair up your game nights with Boston Hemp? From exotic flower to concentrates and edible products. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better pairing than Boston Hemp and hockey. Check them out today at bostonhempinc.com. That's bostonhempinc.com. Boston Hemp Incorporated, the official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys. Void where prohibited by law. Not available outside of the United States. Must be 21 or over to obtain products. Check your local regulations to see if Boston Hemp is available in your area.
Hey, Ian, I got to tell you about this app I've been using lately called Kalshi. Kalshi.com. Did you know it's the only place where you can trade on March Madness in all 50 U.S. states?
I have heard about this, actually. Kalshi is the first and only legal prediction market that lets you trade on real-world events with the look and feel of stock trading, whether it's who will win elections, who will win the Grammy or Oscar awards, or what the price of Bitcoin will hit this year. You can bet you trade on just about anything on Kalshi.
With over 1 million users across all 50 states and over $1 billion worth of trades, Kalshi is an absolute game changer. And with March Madness coming to a close, baseball about to get in the full swing, playoffs on the horizon in hockey and basketball, now's the time to sign up to trade with Kalshi today.
Sign up at kalshi.com/iceguys, and the first 500 traders to join and trade 100 contracts, you will get a free $10 credit added to your account. So don't miss out on all the action. Join Kalshi today at kalshi.com/iceguys. That's kalshi.com/iceguys. Shout out to all our great sponsors. Boston Hemp Inc., 20% off using the promo code IceGuys at bostonhempinc.com. And check out the great trading platform, more than just sports, kalshi.com/iceguys. All right, bargain bin special of the night. Actually, before we start the segments, usually Alex goes first, but we've got our guy Matty Robinson tight for time, up against it. Work call on the way. We'll get right to Matty's bargain bin and his best bet, and we'll let him run right after that. So, Matty, we'll start with you. Bargain bin special of the night for this Tuesday. What do you got?
So we're going to go out to the old state of Florida. Big game between Tampa, Florida. Probably the game I'm most excited to watch. Also the beginning of the series, so it'll be a good one. You mentioned him as far as props go, but I'm going to go with Yanni Gourde playing on that first line. 2 points tonight, plus 700. I looked at his goal prop is plenty in bargain bin. It's like plus 360. But just on the off chance Kucherov scores a couple goals and Yanni Gourde is just getting apples tonight, just need him to get 2 for a nice plus 700 price. So Yanni Gourde over 1.5 points. That'll be my bargain bin for the night.
It's a good one. And yes, no X-Stars players with that one either, Bailey, for Matt's choice tonight.
That guy needs to figure out a new fucking joke. God, same joke every time I'm on the show. Nothing.
Yeah. Yanni Gourde over 1.5 points plus 700. Great price on that. And again, you can get over 1.5 at like plus 250 in some instances with Kucherov, who's on that line, and points closer to 300. You can get 700 with Gourde on that same line. It's a pretty good price, plus 700 for bargain bin special for Matt Robinson for Tampa. All right, Matt, best bet for this Tuesday. What do you got?
Gonna head out to the same game there in Florida. I mentioned I got it at minus 140. It's definitely gone up a little bit today. I think people are on board. I do like it at over 3, but as far as my best bet goes, give me Tampa over 2.5. I just need them to get to 3 tonight at home. So Tampa Bay team total over 2.5. That'll be my best bet tonight.
All right, Tampa Bay Lightning team total over 2.5 for Matt Robinson with his best bet for this Wednesday. No, sorry, Tuesday. I'm getting my days mixed up. It's the playoffs, man. Who cares what day it is? It's going to be another great night of hockey. Tuesday night. All right, Matt, we'll let you run. We appreciate you. It's always good to have you on. Good to have you back here on this Tuesday. Thursday, if you're around, you're obviously welcome to be back. But like I said, good luck tonight. Good to have you on the show, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, great show, guys, and good luck tonight, everyone in the chat. Hit that like button, and let's win some money tonight. Another 4-game slate of good hockey. So I'll catch you guys later.
No doubt. All right, Matt, thanks again, my friend. There you go. Matt Robinson with us here on this Tuesday edition of the show. All right, Alex, you're up next. Bargain bin special of the night.
Yeah, and I got 2 of them. One of them I'm already mentioned, and that's in that Battle of Ontario. We're going with Shane Parlay Pinto. He's got a good feeling that he might get a goal tonight. You can get him plus 430 at FanDuel to pop one in. And then the second one I mentioned, it's in that Battle of Florida. It kind of tailed right along with what Matt has. He likes Yanni Gourde with the over 1.5 assists. He mentioned maybe Nikita Kucherov could score a couple. That's exactly what I like. I already grabbed him plus 180 to score 1 goal, but I have him 1,200, 12 to 1 to get 2 goals tonight. So it's Nikita Kucherov. I also have a cross sport parlay. I don't do this often. I was listening to Bet Sweats this morning. Shout out to Sammy P and Joe O. And they mentioned a couple of plays. So I did this cross sport parlay. Nikita Kucherov, anytime goal scorer, to go with John Morant over 22.5 points in the Memphis game against OKC. Lakers money line and Royals money line against the shithole team known as the Colorado Rockies. I got that plus 930 as a cross sport parlay.
Unfortunately,
So
the Royals aren't much better right now, but yeah, they're at least a little. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Rockies are just, I mean, they're dreadful.
Yeah.
They make the White Sox look halfway decent. So we'll go with that cross sport parlay as well. Just throw that in for fun. That's Nikita Kucherov, John Morant over 22.5 points, Lakers to win, Royals to win. Along with the 2 bargain bin specials on the ice, Nikita Kucherov 2 goals and Shane Parlay Pinto anytime goal scorer.
All right, there we go. I like it. Very creative there for Alex with the bargain bin special of the night. My bargain bin special of the night, I have 2 as well for this Tuesday night slate. But I will admit that one of them was one of the players that was the player that Matty Robinson mentioned. Yanni Gourde. I think it's just phenomenal value. You're talking about him being up on the top line and plus 550 to score a goal tonight. I'll absolutely hop on that. Great value. Yanni Gourde, Tampa Bay Lightning, plus 550 for my first bargain bin special of the night for this card. And my other bargain bin special of the night, I can't deny how he's been playing. He's been a pretty good playoff performer, and he has stepped up for sure. In recent seasons for the Vegas. You got the 2-goal night the other night. Mispriced. I mean, plus 700 at BetMGM for Brett Howden. Brett Howden's actually been a very, very good, noticeable, in on the forecheck type of player. You could take Nick Waugh on that 4th line too, but that 4th line can pop in goals for the Vegas Golden Knights. So I'm going to take a shot with Brett Howden. It's mispriced. There should be an adjustment. He shouldn't be plus 700 after a 2-goal night. In game 1 against Minnesota. So Brett Howden for Vegas, plus 700. That will be my other bargain bin special of the night for this Tuesday. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
I think we get some really good value in the first period over here with Carolina and New Jersey. The Devils cannot afford to just sit back and play hesitant hockey early. They have to press the pace. And if Carolina does that first, then that means they have to open up even more. I expect to see at least 2 goals in this first period. Plus 105. Give me that first period over with Carolina and New Jersey. My Tuesday best bet.
All right, good stuff. My best bet, let's go to that Florida-Tampa Bay game, Battle of Florida. I was debating Lightning or over. I'll go to the over, 5.5. I just feel with both teams off for such a long time, it's going to be a little bit of a game 1 track meet, and we don't even need a track meet with the total being 5.5. But I do think we see enough goals here to push this over the total. When you're talking about one team, that hasn't played since April 17th, like Tampa, which is last Thursday, and then April 15th, exactly 1 week ago, last Tuesday for Florida. I don't think it's going to be a defensive gem by either team here in game 1. So let's go with the battle of, and plus how much animosity there could be in this series. Don't be surprised if we see some penalty parades at times. That's certainly going to help the cause with the over. So let's go with Lightning, Panthers, game 1, over 5.5, minus 110 for my best bet here for this Tuesday NHL slate. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith and Matt Robinson, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll be back with you tomorrow on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern for another edition of the Ice Guys.